Hello, everyone. So, with Joe Biden making moves to pull our troops out of Afghanistan, or at least most of them, the media and countless others are framing it as if it's a complete withdrawal. It's not. It's just a large drawdown of troops. There will still be troops there and some, independent contractors, etc. It's not a complete withdrawal, but this is what we're getting, and I guess we should be happy for what we're getting because it's better than nothing, right? But with that going on, Hades himself, aka George W. Bush, has arisen from the deepest pits of hell to seemingly condemn this decision from the Biden administration. So this is an article from AP News. Trust me, this won't take long. Bush criticizes Afghanistan withdrawal, fears for women. Let's get into this. Former President George W. Bush criticized the Western withdrawal from Afghanistan in an interview with a German broadcaster released Wednesday, saying he fears that Afghan women and girls will suffer unspeakable harm. Wow. Asked in an interview with German international broadcaster whether the withdrawal is a mistake, Bush replied, I think it is, because I think the consequences are going to be unbelievably bad. Go ahead and elaborate a bit, George. Go ahead and elaborate. What are these unspeakably bad consequences that will occur when we withdraw from Afghanistan? Enlighten us. Don't just, state vague statements and expect people to get your point. No, elaborate a little bit. Let's continue. The war in Afghanistan began under Bush after the September 11, 2001 attacks on the United States. Washington gave Taliban leader Mullah Omar an ultimatum: hand over al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden and dismantle militant training camps or prepare to be attacked. Omar refused, and a U.S.-led coalition launched an invasion in October. The withdrawal of U.S. and NATO troops set in motion earlier this year by current President Joe Biden is now nearing completion. Taliban fighters have been surging through district after district, taking control of large swaths of the country. Now, that last part is extremely interesting, the way they framed it. Oh, the Taliban fighters are going through and surging and taking control of the country. Did you know that they have more control of the country now than they did before we entered? Yeah, that's a fact. So what we were trying to do there effectively didn't work. And I don't like to talk about these things as if they work or didn't work, because we shouldn't have been there in the first place, right? Or at least as long. Okay, if you set a time period, okay, we go in there, we get Osama bin Laden, we get out. But that didn't happen. And how long has that guy been dead? A very long time now, hasn't he? And let's get to Satan here. So George says that what's going to happen to the women? The women, the unspeakable things are going to happen to them. We support Saudi Arabia. They execute women for stepping out of line. They practice Sharia law. They're doing a genocide in Yemen. How many women have died in Yemen? And that's not the only atrocious regime that we're aiding and abetting when it comes to these types of things. The list goes on. Why is it only for Afghanistan now all of a sudden you care about women so damn much? I'm sad, Bush said. Laura and I spend a lot of time with Afghan women, and they're scared. And I think about all the interpreters and people that help not only U.S. troops, but NATO troops. And it seems like they're just going to be left behind to be slaughtered by these very brutal people. And it breaks my heart. Listen, George, you don't have a heart. Okay? A guy that brought us into a war that killed hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians doesn't have a heart. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you're breathing or if you're walking. You lack a heart. You don't have one. I'm sorry. In a perfect world, you would be in jail for the rest of your life. You would have been prosecuted, sent to The Hague. That would have been your fate in a world that actually made sense. But luckily for you, this one doesn't. So somehow you're still a free man. But you just can't take that and go somewhere and be quiet for the rest of your life and be thankful that you haven't suffered the fate that I just described. But you're out here saying that pulling out of endless wars is bad because of something unspeakable things to the women. Guys, I got news for you. Anytime we would have left Afghanistan, this would have happened. The Taliban would have taken over more control. I mean, what is up with this notion that America is somehow like the universal police of the world? Like, we got to be Superman and go everywhere and solve everybody's problems and stop everything bad from happening. That doesn't make any sense at all. None whatsoever. Would you, like, when the January 6th insurrection or riot happened, whatever you refer to it as, when that happened, would you as an American citizen have been okay with China deploying troops to come over and save our government from peril? No, I'm sure you wouldn't have been okay with that, because it would have been very forceful and innocent people would have died. It's the same thing when we do it. I don't see how people look at this any differently. And here goes George W. having something to say about this issue when he should have absolutely nothing to say. Absolutely nothing. We need to pull out of Afghanistan. We need to pull out of all the places that we're occupying illegally. Look at what we're doing in Syria right now. Biden has bombed Syria several times now, and it's against international law because we're occupying that place illegally. We shouldn't be there. We shouldn't be there. And you get responses like this from former political leaders that are extremely corrupt. I mean, this guy was pro-torture. He brought us into Iraq and Afghanistan, killed hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. He had awful, god-awful economic policies. I mean, the list goes on with this character. And he still comes out and has an opinion on shit. Look, it's a good thing to get out of Afghanistan. We need to do it. We need to get all troops out of there. But if they're not going to get, if it's not going to be a complete drawdown of troops, then at the very least, what they're doing is somewhat sufficient. If I know only one thing, and I know that one thing for sure, I know that nobody should give a single fuck what George W. Bush has to say.